Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. Today I'm going to be talking about lessons that I learned from being a youth leader. Let me give you a little bit of background on how I actually became a youth leader and how long I was a youth leader for. I accepted the Lord when I was 18 years old, and when I accepted the Lord, about 2 years after that, I was introduced to a youth organization called Assemblies of Christian Churches, the youth sector for the Western District. Western District is California, Colorado, Washington, Nevada, Texas, that Western area. And I met the youth president, and he had me get involved in getting to know a couple of the different churches in the area of California. The year prior to me, actually, when I turned 20, I actually entered into the directive and the leadership for the Western District as one of the vocals or substitutes. And so I worked alongside Jenny Barco, who was the president, for 2 years. And then after that, God wanted me to be the leader. He talked to me through God talked to me through Tony Alvarez, a friend of mine, and also he was one of the youth leaders before Jenny, before a couple other people that I had met. And I went to his Despierta, Awaken services, and God spoke to me there and told me that I would be entering in a season of my leadership, and he was going to make me a leader, and I was going to learn a lot of things, and it was to prepare me for the ministry that God had for me later on. If I can find a picture, I'll post it, because I actually have a picture of God talking to me that day, so hopefully I do, and I can insert that here. And so from there on, I started working as the youth president, and that's kind of where I worked a couple years, literally a couple. I worked 2 terms, which was a year each. And then after that, I started a young women's ministry until I kind of did that for a few years until I met my husband, and then we entered into pastoral ministry. So basically, the time that I was a youth leader, and not only did I work within the larger organization, I also worked as a youth leader within my church, my local church. I was youth president for a very, very long time, and so I have a total of 6 years of youth leadership. I started when I was 20, and then I ended when I was 26. So that's the amount of youth leadership training that God gave me, and that's kind of where I want to jump in with my first thing that I learned. And the first thing that I learned was actually to really make sure that I had a close, consistent is a better word, relationship with God. Because when I first went into this, I went into this with an administrative mentality, because that had been my background. I have always worked in organization. I've always worked in administration. So I came into this thinking of it in an organizational and administrative role. And I had to learn to really hone in my relationship with God. That was the first thing, because I needed to know not what Esther saw needed to happen, but really to listen to, what does God really want for this youth group? And so that really pushed me, because I had to really learn that was the first lesson that I really learned, was how to have a more intimate relationship with God, and how to listen to his voice, and how to fight for what I believed in. Because if it wasn't for God telling me specifically, this is what I want, this is the vision, this is what I want you to do, I wouldn't have been able to overcome some of the obstacles that were in front of me, because I would have just given in. I would have just caved in to what other people were telling me to do. But because I had a clear vision, because I had connected with God, and I would throw myself on God's feet, and I would ask God for direction, and I would listen, and I would meditate in him. I was really thankful that I had that opportunity to learn how to really have a deep connection with the Lord, and how to learn how to listen to his voice. Because for so long, up until that point, I had to really depend on other people's confirmation, and I didn't really have a like understanding of God talking to me directly. So that was kind of the first thing God kind of established, was making sure that I had a connection with him and that I was listening to him. The second thing that I learned was to make sure that you get to know the people that you're leading. Because if you don't know the people, if you don't sit down with them, if you don't make connection, if you don't make community, then like, you know, sometimes we feel like as youth leaders, just because I have the position, people are just going to follow me and they're just going to do what I say. And the reality is that that's the furthest from the truth. You have to earn the respect of other people. You have to earn people wanting to follow you. And if you want that, if you want to lead people, you know, then you have to learn how to sit down with them and get to know them, and not just the people that are popular, but everybody. And so one of the first things that God had told me to do was to go to every single church in the Western District. I had 2 years to do this. I don't remember how many churches we had at that time, but I remember going and being so nervous because I was like, what if these people reject me? And you know, it was further from the truth actually, because the more I sat down with people, the more I just talked to people and heard they were going through, hearing, you know, what the youth actually were feeling, what was the problems they were having, that helped to navigate what kind of events I should be having for them, because I was hearing their needs, you know, and for the most part, it was like, I feel like I need more word, I need more trainings. And so that's kind of what I started to provide. I started providing more trainings. And I saw little by little, each event kept on growing in number, because we had taken the time, not only myself, but also my team at the time, had taken the time to drive up to San Francisco area, and or the north area, because it's not just San Francisco, but like the whole north area. And I would drive there multiple times in a year, just to, you know, make sure that the leadership in that area was okay, and that, you know, if they needed anything, to know that I was there to support them. I went to local church events. I sat down with people. Man, there were so many things that I did, and I'm so thankful that I did those things, because it was able to teach me that how can I lead people when I don't know them. And so a lot of the times we think like I said, just because we have the title, people are just going to automatically follow us. Loyalty comes from when you invest into people, and when you invest into people and they feel loved and they feel heard and it's genuine, it's not fake, then you're going to start to see little by little that their loyalty and their support, you're going to gain it, because they know that you genuinely care and that you're genuinely wanting the best for them. And when they feel that from you, then they're going to support you and they're going to back you up and they're going to be all in. The last thing that I can say that I learned being a youth leader is to always make sure that your team feels supported, that the team you're working with feels like heard, and that you're using them to their full ability. And not only your team, but also the people you're leading, you know, that you're using them and guiding them to what God ultimately has for them, and making sure that they're being used and that they're working for God. You know, first let me talk about like leadership. I always wanted to make sure that, you know, my leaders felt like they were being heard. Maybe they didn't always feel like that, but I always tried to make sure I heard their ideas, that, you know, it wasn't just my decision, that it was a group thing, and that God had given me a vision, but they were gonna give me like all the sprinkles on top of the ice cream, you know. And I had an amazing team. They knew what they were doing. They were very anointed, and I'm so thankful for the team that I had. And I always try to tell them how proud and how happy I was, you know. And friendships grew from that team, and I'm so thankful because we were there for each other. We cried together, we laughed together, and I'm so thankful that, you know, that I took the time to really get to know my team, to support my team, to even help them grow in their own spiritual lives, and then also the people that I led. Because I got to know everybody, I got to use so many different people in different areas, because I started to discover new talents, new people, like things that they can do, and I was able to incorporate that into the different events. And so people felt used, you know, like not in a bad way, but basically like they felt like they were using their talents and they were using their God-given gifts to further God's kingdom and to work in God's kingdom. And I think that that's the most important thing, is you know, to make sure that your team and the people that you're leading feel like they're giving their best to God, and that you gave them room to be able to give their best to God. So let me kind of recap, you know, the lessons that I learned. First is how to have a genuine connection with God and how to hear his voice. The second thing was to really get to know the people that you're leading, because that will bring you loyalty and support. And then the last thing is to make sure that your team and the people that you're leading, that you use, that you provide a platform for God to use their gifts and talents, you know, for them to use their gifts and talents for God. So those are the three things that I, top three things. I learned so many things, but those are the top three things that I learned. And I feel that I had a very successful time in leadership, and those are the three things that really helped me grow. So I hope they were a blessing to your life. Please subscribe, hit that thumbs up, share this if you can on your page, on your Facebook, on your Instagram. It would really help us out. And if you liked this content, you know, please let us know in the comments below. Until the next one, bye.